Okay, good day everyone. Today we are going to discuss about subject and content representation with the different levels of meanings in art. So there are two basic considerations when we are trying to evaluate or appreciate arts. First is the form. The form is the physical and visible characteristics inherent in work of art. The content is the meaning we derive from them. A formal distinction includes the work size, the medium of the different paintings, drawings, sculptures, or other kind of work. And descriptions of compositional elements such as lines, shapes, and colors are involved. So when we say form, this is the physical and visible. It's either the materials used or the mediums used to create or to contain the art piece or the artwork. While content is more on the meanings we derive from them. So they are the combination of different elements such as lines, shapes, tone of the color, and others. So the first level in approaching art is learning to look at it. In future discussions, we will spend more time in pure observation than you probably have done before. So generally, we tend to look at art in terms of liking it first and looking at it later. From this perspective, the subjective. So when we say subjective is the knowledge residing in the emotions and thoughts of the viewer. So we almost completely dominates our way of looking at arts. In the arts, it's especially important to begin to develop an informed or objective opinion rather than just an instinctual reaction. One of the human behavior, one of the man's behavior that is inherent for in the sociological level is that it tends to lead away from violence. So if an art is very chaotic, so if an art is not integrated well, we tend not to look at it because it's a human behavior to look into beautiful things. So in the first level, we need to look at it rather than liking it, or we rather than ignoring what is the meanings of arts by the first impression that it gives us. So that is the first level. So that is more on the subjective view of the viewer. When we develop our objective view in art is the one that focuses on the object's physical characteristics as the main source of information. This does not mean that you will remove or invalidate your subjective feelings about the work. In fact, you will find that the more informed you become, the more artwork will affect you emotionally and intellectually. It does mean that you will learn alternative ways to approach art, ways that allows you to find clues to meanings and to understand how art reflects and affect our lives. So for today, we are going to discuss how we view art, how we view the symbolism, how we derive, how we try to dig into the root or to the grassroots of the art pieces in order to determine the correct symbolism and emotions that the artists are trying to portray. So the more you know about an art, the more you are informed or the more you are able to understand what is the significance or the emotions that is trying to infiltrate the viewers through the art pieces. So in viewing art, there are clues that mediate between the artwork and the viewer, allowing to more easily comprehend what is actually seeing. So these clues are subject. So when we see the subject, it's the visual focus or the image that may be extracted from examining the artwork, and it answers the question what. The second one is content. So the meaning that is communicated by the artist or the artwork, and that is answerable by the question why. And the last one is the form. The form is the development and configuration of the artwork. This is how the element and the medium or the materials are put together, and it answers the question how. So on the form, we are actually referring to the materials or mediums used by the artist to create the art piece. The content is what is beyond the art, or what is the symbolism, the significance or emotions he or she is trying to portray. And the subject, what is the subject of the art piece? Is it about country life? Is it about still life, a myth, a Greek, or a Roman history? So these are the three clues that we need to understand: the subject, content, and the form. Let's first discuss about representational art. From the word representation, it represents something. So these types of art have subjects that refer to objects or events occurring in the real world. It also termed figurative art because the figures depicted are easy to make out and decipher. So when we say representational art, it represents something that is seen by all. Therefore, it represents. A good example for these paintings are the realism. What you see in the real world is actually portrayed in paintings. So therefore, it represents something. A good example for this one is the Mona Lisa, a painting from Leonardo da Vinci in 1503. So despite not knowing who Mona Lisa is, it is clear that the painting is of a woman that is realistically proportioned. Only the upper torso is shown. Only the upper torso is shown. A beguiling and mysterious smile is flashed. The background is a landscape. There are many theories revolving around the painting of Mona Lisa. Some says that Mona Lisa is the representation of Leonardo da Vinci. Another one is in some annals in history, Mona Lisa is a daughter of a Venetian wealthy merchant, which is I'm not sure about the name, but he was. And the third one is that Mona Lisa is actually a created image of Leonardo da Vinci. So those are the three assumptions, ideas that revolves around Mona Lisa, because during those times the technique used by Leonardo da Vinci is that actually if you can see the painting, nawawala yung kanyang kilay, and wherever you are nakatingin pa rin siya sa'yo. Actually, it's one of the most portrayed or most evaluated art piece of all time, the Mona Lisa. Let's now move to the non-representational art. So when we say non-representational art, these are art forms that do not make a reference to the real world. So meaning they came from the ideas of the artist without knowing where it came from. So these are imaginative creation of mind. So it's either a person, a place, things, or event in a particular event. So it is stripped down to visual elements such as shape, lines, and colors that are employed to translate a particular feeling, emotion, and even concept. A good example for this one is the number 1A by Jackson Pollock in 1948. As you can see in the painting, it does not resemble any figures outside in the real world. Rather, these are abstract images that is mixed with different emotions. It presents a confusion, so it's more in the abstract level. It does not represent anything from the outside world. So it's created by the artist, therefore it is not a non-representational art. We'll now discuss the different levels of meaning in art. So the first level is the factual, the most rudimentary level of meaning, for it may be extracted from the identifiable or recognizable forms in the artwork and understanding how these elements relate to one another. So when we say factual, what is the known fact about an art piece? For example, the painting of Fernando Amorsolo about the country life. So as you can see in the painting, if you have seen it in your previous lesson in the subject, the contemporary arts from the Philippine region, um, the painting itself portrayed the life in a country, meaning farm life. So the factual meaning is that the painting was done in the farm. So that is factual. It represents farm life, or it presents a simple living of the Filipino people during his time. Next one is the conventional meaning. So when we say conventional meaning, it pertains to the acknowledged interpretation of the artwork using motif, sign, and symbols and other ciphers as basis of its meaning. These conventions are established through time, strengthened by recurrent use and wide acceptance by its viewers or audience and scholars who study them. So when we say conventional meaning, a good example for this one is the painting of Juan Luna, if I'm not mistaken. Juan Luna, yung gladiator, Juan Luna. Okay, in the painting of Juan Luna in Gladiator, if we're going to look into the historical context, it talks about the ancient Rome, where the gladiators Actually, gladiators are the slaves during those times. And in order for them to become free from slavery, they need to fight their own. They need to kill, only one survives, and that slave survives will become a free man. In a coliseum or arena, they will try to fight for death. After the death, yung mga bangkay nila is tinatapon. The painting depicted about oppression in the Roman Empire. But actually, that is actually the first level of meaning. That is factual. But when we talk about conventional meaning, it symbolizes. So he was using the oppression using in the Roman time to express the idea that the Filipino people are oppressed during his times. So it's more on the conventional meaning. Next is the subjective meaning. When subjectivities are consulted, a variety of meanings may arise when a particular work of art is read. These meanings stem from the viewer's or audience circumstances that come into play when engaging with art. So, what we know, what we learn, and what we experience, what values we stand for. The meaning may not be singular, rather multiple and varied. So, this is the highest level of interpreting art, the subjective meaning. What is known is the factual and the conventional meaning. But as persons are individual in nature or they are very unique to one another, they may have different interpretations of the factual and conventional meaning. So recreated. It's just like the study of history, which is historiography, the recreating of the past into a more acceptable or into a more detailed narrative. We try to recreate the meanings based on our time. It's more subjective. So how does this painting shows the current condition of the society that we are living? Maybe during those times that the artist paint itself is more on the political tyranny, more on the oppression, on the rights of the Filipino people. But these times, this art is actually recreated to represent the current condition in our society. A good example for this one, if the painting of Juan Luna depicted oppression, maybe we can use it in our time as a depiction of the oppression from the from the political dynasties, and it's one of the social issues that we are facing right now. Okay, thank you for listening for the topic, the levels of meaning and art, and the representation and non-representation type of art.